Starting off today is BlinkLab Limited, ASX code BB1, a company developing an AI-powered smartphone-based tool which is designed to detect early signs of autism and ADHD. Joining me today is Brian Leedman, Non-Executive Chairman. Brian, thanks so much.
I just want to say at the outset that it's my first opportunity to publicly thank Jane, my former director, I'm sorry to say, but she has been with the team since the very founding of the company and listing on the ASX. She's done the most fantastic job. And I just want to use the opportunity to thank you publicly, Jane, for being such a great director on the company. I miss you not being on the board now.
Thank you. You can do that a little bit louder. Add a little bit closer to you as well. That's for all the presenters. But yeah,
there you go.
Feel free to do that again.
So BlinkLab. So I just want to maybe start my talk just by asking the question here. Does anyone know how much money Australia spent on defence last year? Any guesses in billions of dollars? You just shout it out. 60? 60's closest. So it was actually $57 billion we spent on defence. Can anyone tell me how much money we spent on the NDIS last year?
65, 64 next year.
It's actually 64 billion. So you're obviously well read, sir. But it's $64 billion by 2029. It's currently $46 billion. Now, we almost spend as much money on the NDIS as defence, and that's going to overtake defence by the end of this decade. That's how much money we spend on that. And as a whole, 40% of that expenditure is spent on autism, both in the diagnosis and treatment of autism. Now, let me ask this question. Do we spend more money on autism in children or adults? Adults is correct. Most people would say children. It's actually in adults. And what's happening here is that kids are not being diagnosed early enough with autism, and they get diagnosed late. And we all know that with any illness, the earlier you can diagnose anybody with anything, the better the outcome for that person. And the reason why the NDIS budget is so extreme and growing so fast is because the cost and maintenance of care for these children who become adults with autism is a huge cost on society. And this is not just in Australia, but it's around the world. And this, of course, is a major topic of discussion in the United States for a whole variety of reasons as to why autism is so prevalent there. I don't really know. I don't really care. What I do know, though, is that BlinkLab has the most disruptive technology in the world today in the ability to diagnose autism or ADHD and a whole range of other neurological conditions simply using a smartphone. And the way it works is really simple. It invokes what we call the facial reflex. So people have heard of the knee tendon reflex. I guess less known would be the facial reflex, but it's been around. It's been well documented for the last 100 years. And so what we're using is a smartphone where we're using all the capabilities of a smartphone, using the screen, the microphone, and also the speakers, and most importantly, the forward-facing camera. And so the child is watching a video, called Toy Story, doesn't really matter, as long as it holds their attention as young as, say, 2 years old. And it's invoking a series of pulses, both visual and audio, and it's making them blink using that facial reflex response, but measured in milliseconds in terms of the reaction time to the stimulus using that forward-facing camera. And all that analysis is done on the phone, and it's all artificial intelligence, machine learning algorithms that we've developed through an exclusive license from Princeton University. And so we listed this company in April of 24. Don't be put off by the share price. Yes, we've had a tremendous run, but we have had a run because we've done everything that we said that we would do. And in the time frame we said we would do it in. And so now I'm able to present to you today, and I'm really proud of all the achievements the company has done, because we've taken this technology, which is really totally unique and disruptive, using a smartphone, licensed from Princeton. All the IP has come from Princeton University, and we have now taken this into an FDA regulatory study. Now, Those that know me in the room here will know my background, particularly with a company called ResApp Health. ResApp Health was the best performing stock on the entire ASX during a period from post its listing. But we did come unstuck for a while. I mean, I know that we were acquired by Pfizer for a great deal of money and everyone did well. But there was a hiccup along the way, and that was because the FDA trial that we embarked upon didn't go as planned. The protocols that we had in place for the Australian trials just weren't followed in the United States the way we expected them to. So the first trial was a failure, and boy, did that crash the share price at that time. I'm really conscious of that. So what we did on this occasion is we embarked on an FDA clinical program. We enrolled some 470 odd kids in that trial, but we called it a pilot study. And the pilot study was designed to make sure that all the protocols were followed. And remember, we're dealing with autistic kids. So, you know, there's going to be some problems that you might anticipate along the way in terms of whether or not maybe Toy Story is not interesting enough for them. Maybe it needed to be Bluey or something. I don't know. These are the things that we don't know when we enter into a trial. But we do want to get a good result. Now, thankfully, the team, which is led by Hank Jan, who's now a managing director and co-founder of the company, boy, did they do a good job. Because we had 470 kids in that study, and we generated results of a sensitivity and specificity score, which is basically all the FDA cares about, in the mid-80s. And that's compared to a diagnosis from a psychiatrist formally diagnosing that child. So we don't know who's who in the zoo. This is a double-blind clinical trial. Now, I can be criticized and say, well, why the hell didn't we just do a straight-out FDA trial? And then we would be submitting for FDA approval right now. I didn't know that the trial was going to go so well. I didn't know we were going to get such a great result. But I do know that you all here have the opportunity now to look at BlinkLab post the pilot study. We've done the pilot study on 470 kids. We've got the results. The FDA have told us that we need a sensitivity specificity score in the 65% minimum. And we're already hitting the mid-80s on that published result. So now we have to go and do that trial again. But this won't be a pilot study. This is an FDA regulatory study. And I have been in this business, for those that know me, I've been in the biotech game for a long time. I can tell you that if you're not in an FDA regulatory study, you're not in the game, right? So we haven't even been in the game. Even though the share price is up, 400 or 500% since we listed, we haven't even started the game yet because we haven't enrolled our first patient. And the first patient will be enrolled this quarter. And one of the things I'm most proud of, if you look at the company and you look at the announcements that we've made, look at the hospitals that have signed up to be part of our FDA regulatory trial. We now have 9 of the finest establishments in North America, led by none other than the Vanderbilt Kennedy Institute of Autism Research, the Pennsylvania Medical University Hospital, and Rush University and so forth. There are 9 of the most prestigious centers in autism research in the United States who will be actively enrolling patients in this FDA clinical trial, which is about to begin. Sometime this quarter, we will make this announcement of the first patient. And then we enter the gate. That's when we're now in the business, and that's when we get attractive to the big fund managers and the sophisticated investors who go, we're not investing in you until you start your FDA registrational study. Now that study is commencing this quarter, and it will run throughout probably the next 6 months, and then we'll get the outcome. Now what's interesting is that the trial is the same as the trial we just finished and released the results back in, when was it, late October, that saw the share price jump so much. And that's because we're just repeating the same trial, and the FDA have told us that instead of 470 odd kids, we need to have 528. That's the number. So we will recruit those patients rapidly, I expect. The same technology, the same protocols, the same sort of kids. They're all double-blinded, so we don't know if they're autistic or not when they enter the trial. And we will enter that study in the very near term. And I'm very excited about it because then I can say quite proudly that we're in an FDA regulatory study. And you know what that means? Because if you get the outcome that we're hoping to get, and let's say we do get in the mid-80s, which is well above 65 that we need, well, then we have the most disruptive technology in the world to diagnose autism in young children at a point where you can actually introduce treatment at a younger age, because you can't treat anybody in any condition until you're diagnosed. And we're talking about the hottest subject and field in healthcare. Now, I've talked about autism, and I want to just mention here, and I'm going to ask the question again of my audience, but how much value do you think in the BlinkLab share price is attributed to diagnosing ADHD? Did anyone tell me? Well, silence, I would say, means zero, because that's what it is. There is absolutely no value in our share price attributed to ADHD. But the ADHD market opportunity is at least 6 or 7 times larger than autism. And it's the same tech. It's just how the blink reaction and the reaction time and how those algorithms interpret it. So we will read out the results of our European ADHD trial, likely sometime in the late part of this quarter. And if those results are good, and I don't know what they are, I can tell you that the market will be very interested in those results, because the ADHD market opportunity to diagnose kids at a very early age, call it 2 or 3 with ADHD, is tremendous. And then we'll be talking about going into an FDA regulatory study for ADHD, in addition to the autism trial, which we're about to begin. And here's the kicker, hopefully on the back of good results, we could be submitting for European approval for ADHD on that trial that we're conducting in the Netherlands. And we're reading out the results in sometime late this quarter. So there's another big opportunity there. So I'm very proud of the team at BlinkLab. I think we've done a good job. I think my lesson that I've learned is simply do what you say you're going to do in the time frame you say you're going to do it in. And then you will get the attention in the market. We've got this disruptive technology, both in autism and ADHD. And I just want to close on this note. Everyone knows that I sold my last company to Pfizer, also a digital healthcare company. Why did Pfizer buy Rezac Health? I'll tell you why. Because the technology that I licensed came from the University of Queensland. And, UQ aren't great at many things, but I tell you, they're very good at one thing, and that is IP protection. And so when Pfizer came and looked at us, the big thing they were interested in is, can we R&D, which means replicate and duplicate you without having to buy you. And the end result was they simply bought us. I think that in the case of BlinkLab, provided we do get the outcomes that we're hoping to get, I can see this being an acquisition play, because we've got the technology. It's already licensed from Princeton University. I'm pretty sure they must be pretty good at IP. And this is a sort of platform technology where they can take this, they can roll it out, but they could also do more. They could use the same platform technology to diagnose other things, using that facial reflex response, like, for example, depression or dementia, things that we just don't have the funds to pursue. And that gives them a good reason to go after it. So with that, I want to thank everybody for coming and listening to me. Thank you to J Morgan Management for hosting me. And I just want to say one last thing, and that is I will be holding my Brokers Meet Biotech lunch at the end of March, on the 31st of March. So please put that in your diaries. It's always a fun afternoon, and I look forward to seeing you around then. So thank you.